Okay, just for fun, I'm going to show a few people with drafting some of the things to look for when you're new. So that your fiber does not fall apart, and that was one thing mentioned, it's always best, now this is just in the fluff, and it's together, but roving, because it's gone through a process of stretching the fibers to keep them in line, I'm just doing it with my hand here, they're not going to be as grippy to each other. So if you're buying commercial roving, it doesn't grip to each other like a fresh fleece was. That's why many of us like working with a fresh fleece, because we could feel, when we draft, we could feel that crimp stretch, and it's just kind of a, I don't know, nice feeling. I'm back in Hawaii, or I'm still in Hawaii, no, not back in Hawaii. That would be I couldn't have gotten off the plane and gotten back on. Okay, one of the things you want to do when working with your fleece, and I'll do it with a couple different ones so you can see, you want to pull out on your roving and see what the staple length is. Let me see where I can get it where you'll see. I really don't know what's showing up on the screen because there's a glare on the screen. When your all fiber has a staple length. So if you're buying a raw fleece and it says 4-inch staple length, that's going to be 4 inches like that. And then carding in roving, you wouldn't necessarily know how long the staple length was unless you were to pull some out. When you are drafting, because if you pull out more than this 4-inch staple length, it'll fall apart. So you never want to pull out, as you're drafting, more than the staple length is. A little bit less. And the fiber, unless it's, trying to think what fibers don't do it, mohair. Mohair doesn't grip onto itself as well. The glossier fibers don't, because they don't have the same texture to them. So with mohair and some of the other fibers that don't have the same texture, you're going to do a slower draft. Now I can, because these fibers are going to grip onto itself, I'd like to feel it in my hand, because I do a lot of things in the dark. I'm not compressing it, but I can feel it in my hand. I hope this is showing up. Okay, so I'm only pulling out about 3 inches, because I know the fiber length, the staple length is 4 inches. And then when I come down, I let go to get more. That twist catches it on to the existing fiber. So that's the first thing you need to do when you're starting to learn to draft and your fiber's not staying together. I think that was one of the things somebody mentioned, but I'm not exactly sure what she meant by staying together, because I don't know if it was put in roving or if it's in a fleece, and hopefully she'll tell me and we can cover that. But so just don't pull anything more than what that staple length is, and then allow the twist to run up a little bit. This ends up being what most would consider a semi-worsted if you're working in this fashion where you're letting the twist run up a tiny bit. If you were doing it long draw and letting it run up the whole way and just pulling out as you spun, that would be a woolen method, because you're letting the twist travel up as far as you've got the tension pulling the fiber. I like to have enough tension. That's one of the biggest things too when you're first starting, is adjust the tension to where you like it, and fiddle, 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 fiddle. If I am getting annoyed with a boy student, like say if I'm doing this at a middle school and somebody's being a punk, I'll crank up the tension really hard so it keeps ripping it out of his hand. And then when the sweet kid comes up, I'll make the tension really light. And then the sweet kid looks like the the talented one. Okay, that's between you and me. Anyways, so don't pull out any more than what it allows. When you're drafting, a lot of the thickness will depend on your tension. If you've got it cranked up really high, it'll want to pull more out of your hand. So then you're going to get a thicker yarn. If you have it, but so monkey around to where it's just how you like it. And now the other thing is, Let me show you. So this, you can see I'm pulling out about a good 3 inches so that there's access. If I can do it an inch at a time, it's a little bit slower, but the same thing. It's the tension that is determining how much you pull out, unless you are wanting a thick thin, and then you would pull out a big, well, I'm down to fuzz here. You would pull out a bigger clump and then draft it thin. Grab a bigger clump and then draft it thin. And that gives you the thick thins. That's best to do with roving. And so what I do, because this isn't roving, and it's going to be a little bit fuzzier, I could lick my finger. Sorry if that grosses anybody out. And then roll it a little bit, and that gives it the nice form that a roving bobble would. A little bit felted since I licked my finger. Okay, there you go. Let me grab something. Okay, here's some short fiber. See that? I wonder, yeah, I'll have to look at this, see if it's showing up. Here's some shorter fiber. It's cute stuff. The length is probably about 3 inches. Some of it's a little bit less. This sheep, I think, was shorn when it wasn't a full year of growth. It's just got a really nice fiber. Okay, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to start spinning. And I'm just going to pull out maybe an inch or so at a time so that I have more control over what's happening to her. When you are using roving, there's always a better end of the roving to work with. It's how it came off the carder. So what you need to do, you need to test. You need to pull one end of the roving, see if it slides nicely, and then pull the other one, see how nicely it slides, and pick which one you think glides nicer. It's like if you've done embroidery, you feel the embroidery floss, find which way the scales are going. You do that with raw fleece. It's always a smoother draft if you're starting from the cut end. These tips you could see are not the cut end. They are the bleached end that hit the sun. I could cut those off, or I could brush them out, but I like them. Anyway, so then what you're going to do, or what I'm going to do right now, is I'm going to draft from the cut end, because the scales on the, just like on our own hair, the scales travel from the scalp or skin down to the end. So the scales are running that way. Picture like the trunk of a palm tree. It's got those things going, or fly leg, I don't know, Pantene commercial. Okay, so this one, because it's short, I'm just going to pull out about an inch at a time. And that way, it doesn't get a hold of me. Now, what I can do, and I hope I don't lose my end, but I love you that much, I'm going to let it go. Say I pull out more, well, okay, that didn't go out. Say I pulled out too much, and it went, okay, see here I'm doing like thread, which, why does anybody ever want thread? Anyways, it's fun to say you spun thread, I guess. But okay, let's get it a little bit more going. That was, I'm going to wrap some around this so that it's a little bit thicker. Okay, so, one person asked me, how do I know when I'm getting enough twist versus too much? Well, the best way to know that is to let it curl back on itself to see what the yarn would look like. So you can pull out a strand and go like this and see what your yarn would look like. Now see, the first part, that's really loose here. So that shows me I can put more twist into it. You can make whatever you want. Some people like a really loose twist. Some people like a firmer one for socks. If you're going to felt, knit and felt, loose is nice. It felt's easier. But what I generally do, if I'm not doing, with long draw is a different story. What I generally do, and I draft out like this, when I feel the firmness of the twist coming to my finger, then I know it's ready to draft more, and I've got enough twist. I can be pretty variable in my single spinning, because when I'm going to ply, and I like to ply most of the time because I think it makes a more secure yarn, less likely to pill, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Okay, I like applied yarn. Anyways, I just don't want to put all that work in something and have it peel. Okay, so see, I got this single here, and I just when it got kind of firm, you can see it's up right up to there. I always think when I'm spinning, if I don't need to for my normal yarn like this, but if I want to do thick, I have to have a little mantra going for the first part of the skein, and it could be spaghetti noodle, pencil lead, you know, mechanical pencils, how it's really skinny. So then, I don't know if you can see that. Let's see, where I don't even know where my camera is. Okay, a 3-ply is going to be a rounder yarn, and that makes for a really pretty yarn if you're doing stitches that change, and so that you want to see the stitch definition. I love the way a 2-ply yarn looks because it looks more homespun. When you are doing this, if you can wear the opposite color of clothing or pants or whatever so that you can see how much fiber you have in your twist there, or in the drafting zone, I don't know what, I can't remember what they call it, the fuzzy part that's left over, you'll be able to tell a lot easier if you're being consistent. But if you can think in your head, I'm going to bend over here, thread, noodle, pencil lead, I'm trying to think what goes thicker than that. I'm trying to think next up. What's next up? Okay, so try imagine in your head what shape you're going for. Okay, here I have some Angora. It is really short. I just grabbed it in case I wanted to card it in. This stuff's like 2 inches short, probably from the bunny's legs, but I love my bunnies, so I kept it. Okay, so what I'll do, I'm going to show you how I can draft this, and I'm going to keep my hand on the mass of it because it will just draft apart. It is that slick. And I'm only going to do about a ½ inch at a time, and I'm still keeping the same consistency because I'm still thinking pencil lead. With Angora especially, because this is too short of a staple to make a thick fiber. When I have a short stapled fiber and I want something thick and bulky, then I'm going to make it thick and bulky with plies. It's easy to do thick and bulky with long fibers, but not so much with short fibers. But the main reason, not having to do with ease or difficulty, is that you want strength in the yarn. So when it's shorter, you need a lot more spin to keep it together, a lot more twist to keep it together. And so I'm going to just really inchworm this stuff along. Please let me know, the ones that said that their fleece is not staying together, what form your fleece is in. If it's roving, if it's just a wad from a washed fleece, let me know where it started at. Different mills process differently, and that poses a problem for a lot of new spinners. Poses a lot of problem for a lot of experienced spinners when you're used to something and then all of a sudden you feel something really peculiar. So remember, when you go to draft out, see how long the fiber staple is, and don't draft any more than that. One person mentioned, how do you keep your wheel going the same direction? You get to feel that just like a bike, where the thing is double treadles, it's a lot easier. With the double treadle, you don't generally have to push it and start it. Most people with the single treadle, when they want to get going, push it in the right direction because it has to do with balance, where the wheel ends up when you're done when you stop to treadle. Okay, let me know what else I can do, or if you need a different background so you can actually see the yarn better. I don't know if it shows up for you. Okay, bye-bye.